Ever feel like you're stuck playing the same popular games over and over while hidden gems keep getting ignored? These days, so many amazing games get buried under massive AAA releases, bad marketing, or just never get the attention they deserve. So if you're tired of hearing about the same mainstream titles and want something fresh, today I'm talking about underrated games that truly deserve your attention, because these are the kinds of games that might end up becoming your next favorite. Starting this list with 9 Souls. Red Candle Games absolutely delivered with this incredible 2024 release. It quickly established itself as one of the standout Metroidvania titles in recent years, blending precise, parry-focused combat reminiscent of Sekiro with a sprawling, interconnected world built for exploration. From the moment you start playing, it becomes clear that this is not just another entry in the genre, it feels like something truly special. Both critics and players have praised the game heavily, especially for its outstanding combat mechanics, breathtaking visuals, immersive soundtrack, and the incredible attention to detail put into its world building. It has earned impressive review scores across the board, with Metacritic ratings landing in the mid-80s, and overwhelmingly positive feedback from Steam players proving just how beloved it has become within the gaming community. Commercially, 9 Souls has performed admirably, selling over 800,000 copies in its first year across all platforms. It has also earned recognition in the indie game scene, garnering nominations and awards for its design and originality. Comparisons to Hollow Knight are inevitable, though 9 Souls carves its own identity, offering a unique challenge and polished execution that sets it apart from the crowded Metroidvania landscape. Still, for many fans, 9 Souls is considered nothing short of a near masterpiece, an expertly crafted experience that pushes the genre forward with its originality, polish, and depth. If you are searching for a game that delivers challenging gameplay, stunning presentation, and a world rich with atmosphere and creativity, this is absolutely one you should not overlook. For Metroidvania fans especially, 9 Souls feels like an essential addition to your library. Next we have High on Life. Released in 2022 by Squanch Games, High on Life throws you into a wild and absurd story where you're up against an alien cartel that literally uses humans as drugs. The highlight of the game is definitely your weapons. They're sentient, constantly talking, and have hilariously foul mouths. The gameplay blends chaotic shooting with exploration that has a light Metroidvania feel, all wrapped in a non-stop irreverent sense of humor. Critics gave it mixed reviews, scoring around 67 on Metacritic, mostly because its style is so specific and over the top. Players, however, responded much more positively with user scores around 7.6. Fans love the sharp voice acting, the clever writing, and that unmistakable Rick and Morty vibe you'd expect from Squanch Games. The campaign is relatively short but packed with creative boss fights, inventive level design, and plenty of ways to explore the world. The game became a major hit, especially on Xbox Game Pass, where millions of players jumped in, and it performed strongly on Steam as well. While current Steam player numbers may be lower, that's normal for a story-driven single-player game. Most players have simply finished the adventure. If you're looking for a shooter that focuses on personality, laughs, and ridiculous creativity rather than technical perfection, High on Life is a must-play. The existence of a sequel in 2026 only proves that it has established a loyal fanbase and a foundation strong enough to keep this crazy universe alive. Next we have Psychonauts 2, released in 2021 by Double Fine. This game is a rare sequel that manages to feel both familiar and completely fresh. Critics loved it, giving it high scores between 87 and 89 on Metacritic, calling it a creative triumph full of inventive worlds, sharp humor, memorable characters, and emotional storytelling that ties mind-bending exploration to personal struggles in ways few games manage. Players often describe it as wildly imaginative and unapologetically weird in the best way possible. Every psychic realm is packed with surprises, keeping the experience exciting and unpredictable, far from the formulaic feel of most big blockbuster games. Its inventive level design and clever writing earned it multiple award nominations, and it quickly became recognized as one of the strongest platformers in recent years. Double Fine retained the quirky cult charm of the original, while refining it for a modern audience, delivering tighter gameplay, smoother mechanics, and a story that resonates emotionally. Despite critical acclaim and becoming the studio's best-selling game with over 1 million copies sold and exposure through Xbox Game Pass, it never reached true mainstream blockbuster status. Steam player numbers remained modest, and many still call it underrated, arguing it deserves far more attention. Even if some say it's not truly underrated since players and critics who experienced it mostly loved it, the truth is that a game this polished and creative should have reached far more people. Psychonauts 2 has that special underrated vibe for anyone discovering it later on sale or through Game Pass. Binary Domain is one of those underrated gems from the early 2010s that never got the recognition it truly deserved. Released in 2012 and developed by Ryuga Gotoku Studio, the same team behind the Yakuza series, it drops you into a near-future Tokyo where humanoid robots have blurred the line between man and machine. You lead a squad of soldiers on a mission that quickly spirals into questions about morality, identity, and what it really means to be alive. Despite its quality, Binary Domain was a commercial failure in the West, selling just around 20,000 copies in North America soon after release. It was overshadowed by blockbuster hits like Mass Effect 3, and unfortunately, it never received a sequel. This is a real loss because it's a polished, engaging shooter with more heart and personality than many higher-profile games of its era. The story leans heavily on classic sci-fi influence like Blade Runner, tackling heavy themes while still delivering over-the-top boss fights and genuinely tense moments. Despite its strengths, the game received mixed to positive reviews at launch. Critics praised the narrative and characters, but criticized the voice command system and multiplayer. Players who discovered it later often call it a hidden gem or even a cult classic. For fans of sci-fi shooters, especially those who appreciate compelling characters and a concise, focused campaign, Binary Domain is a must-play. Its understated charm and emotional depth make it feel unfairly overlooked, and anyone revisiting it often wonders why it never achieved the classic status it clearly deserved. Next up is Blade Chimera. Developed by Team Ladybug, the studio behind notable titles like Touhou Luna Nights and Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth, this 2025 release immerses players in a stylish cyberpunk meets occult world set in a demon-infested future Osaka. You step into the shoes of Shin, a no-nonsense demon hunter who partners with Lux, a powerful sentient demon sword that introduces time rewind mechanics, slick combat options, and clever platforming twists. The pixel art is gorgeous, popping beautifully even on the Nintendo Switch, and the combat is crisp, responsive, and immensely satisfying thanks to a large arsenal of weapons and skills. Reviewers and players alike often highlight how empowering the gameplay loop feels from the very beginning, skipping the slow early game pacing typical of the genre and diving straight into the most enjoyable mechanics. That said, the game is not without minor flaws. Some players find the difficulty a bit on the lighter side. The story occasionally leans on familiar tropes, and certain side content like optional quests can feel underdeveloped or messy. The campaign itself is relatively short, clocking in at around 8 hours for a standard playthrough with completionists potentially doubling that time. In a year crowded with major Metroidvania releases, this brevity might leave some wishing for more depth. Despite these minor issues, Blade Chimera receives strong acclaim. Steam reviews sit at an impressive 88% very positive from over 1,000 users, and while it never became a mainstream sensation, it has earned a reputation as a hidden gem. Its modest player peaks and consistent praise make it a standout example of a game that's highly enjoyable, yet often overlooked in broader gaming conversations. Next up is Rise of the Ronin. Team Ninja delivered an impressive fusion of their signature hardcore combat with a rich, open-world take on late Edo period Japan. The combat system is exceptional, blending fluid, punishing encounters with a sense of fairness. Players can wield a wide array of weapons, switch between diverse stances, and master intricate counter mechanics, all of which reward precision and skill far beyond what many mainstream action games offer. Released in a year crowded with samurai-themed titles like Ghost of Tsushima, Rise of the Ronin didn't get as much attention as it deserved. While critics noted some repetitive side content, a few dated open-world conventions and visuals that sometimes lagged behind the spectacle of its peers, these flaws hardly overshadow the game's strengths. The world building is meticulous, character interactions are meaningful, and the freedom to tackle missions through stealth, brutal melee, or ranged combat gives players a genuine sense of agency. Those who push past the early hours often find it deeply rewarding, reflected in user scores on Metacritic, which frequently outpace critic averages, landing in the high 7s to low 9s depending on platform. From a sales perspective, it didn't achieve the blockbuster numbers Koei Tecmo hoped for as a new IP. Estimates suggest around 1.5 million copies or more across its lifecycle, A respectable figure, but far from mainstream dominance, especially given the limited marketing push. Fans celebrate how it evolves Neo's DNA into a broader experience while keeping the intensity and skill-driven combat that Team Ninja is known for. For players who appreciate action RPGs emphasizing gameplay depth over flashy polish or hype, Rise of the Ronin delivers in abundance. It may not have dominated headlines or award shows, but those who discover it often find a lasting favorite that lingers longer than flashier releases. Next up is Ghostwire Tokyo. Released in 2022 under the looming shadow of Elden Ring, it didn't make massive waves at launch, scoring around 75 on Metacritic, but it has steadily built a devoted following. What sets it apart is its haunting recreation of Shibuya, shrouded in fog and supernatural energy blending Japanese folklore with a first-person combat system that combines elemental magic and gunplay in a way that feels fresh and cinematic. The real magic lies in the world itself. Empty streets pulse with life through small, intricate details like side stories inspired by urban legends, spirits to cleanse, and hidden corners that reward patient exploration. The gameplay loop, like hunting spirits, upgrading abilities, and uncovering secrets, can feel repetitive if rushed, but settling into its rhythm makes the experience immersive, almost meditative, with a tension that's equal parts wonder and unease. Players returning via Game Pass, Steam, or Prime Gaming often call it a hidden gem, praising the fluid movement, atmospheric design, and cultural depth that elevate it above standard open-world fare. Commercially, it never hit blockbuster numbers, and Steam's concurrent player counts have remained modest, yet the game has reached millions through discounts and subscriptions. While some criticize its combat as shallow or its pacing as slow, Ghostwire Tokyo thrives for those who value atmosphere, storytelling through environment, and mythology-rich exploration. It's a game that rewards the right mindset, the kind of title that grows on you over time, and stands today as a truly underrated standout in modern gaming. The Evil Within 2 is one of those rare sequels that quietly refines what its predecessor started while carving out its own identity in survival horror. Released in 2017, it follows Detective Sebastian Castellanos as he dives back into the nightmarish world of STEM to rescue his daughter. The game blends tense psychological horror with more open exploration than the first title, giving players both a gripping story and room to strategize. Even in 2026, it still holds up remarkably well. The story improves on the original by grounding its mind-bending horror in stronger emotional stakes, especially around family and loss. Dialogue and certain plot beats can feel a bit clunky or familiar, and pacing sometimes dips with backtracking or action-heavy sections, but these minor flaws don't stop the overall experience. It might not be the scariest game ever made, but it nails that addictive survival loop where every encounter leaves you scraping by, heart racing, and resources low. Environments range from tight, twisted corridors to larger, semi-open areas where you can sneak past threats, scavenge for scarce supplies, or dive into brutal combat when things go wrong. The atmosphere is consistently unsettling with haunting visuals, eerie sound design, and enemies that shift between grotesque abominations and human-like stalkers who relentlessly pressure you without relying on cheap jump scares. Though its sales were modest compared to the first game and it didn't get the same hype as other major releases of its era, fans often call it a hidden gem or even a survival horror masterpiece. If you enjoy classic Silent Hill vibes with thoughtful exploration, The Evil Within 2 rewards patience, and replaying it on greater difficulties delivers even greater challenges. Next up is Evil West. Set in an alternate Wild West overrun by vampires and monstrous creatures, you take on the role of Jesse Rentier, a seasoned vampire hunter armed with a high-tech gauntlet, an array of firearms and gadgets inspired by Nikola Tesla's inventions. The game blends classic cowboy action with over-the-top monster slaying, creating a pulpy, cinematic feel that successfully captures the thrill of old-school action games with a horror twist. Many players see it as a throwback to the character action games of the PS3 and Xbox 360 era, where the focus was squarely on punching through levels rather than endless side quests or crafting systems. The campaign is tight, running around 10 to 12 hours, and there's even local co-op if you want to team up with a friend for some chaotic monster hunting. The real standout is the combat. It's visceral, weighty, and immensely satisfying. You can punch, shoot, electrify, and dismember hordes of monsters through fluid combos that seamlessly mix melee and ranged attacks. As you progress, upgrades and perks allow you to tailor your playstyle whether you prefer brawling up close or picking off enemies from a distance. The gore is intense enough to be thrilling, yet never feels gratuitous, adding to the cinematic spectacle. While there are a few tough difficulty spikes near the end and the production values aren't quite blockbuster level, the game delivers a solid, entertaining experience. Critics often call it fun, but somewhat formulaic, while many players defend it as an underrated gem. Fans of older God of War or Shadow Warrior titles will likely find plenty to enjoy here. It's not perfect, but it knows exactly what it wants to be, and for many, that makes it a surprisingly satisfying ride. Finally, we wrap up this list with Kena Bridge of Spirits. From the very beginning, its beautiful visuals and emotional atmosphere make it stand out in a way that feels rare, especially for a studio's first game. When Kena Bridge of Spirits launched in 2021, it received very positive reviews from both critics and players. Many praised its visuals, emotional storytelling, and polished gameplay, and it even won awards for Best Indie Game and Best Debut Indie Game. Despite that success, many gamers still consider it underrated because it never became as huge in mainstream discussion as other major releases. Maybe that's because it's shorter than most big adventure games, or because its ideas feel inspired by familiar titles like Zelda and God of War. But even with those inspirations, it manages to create an identity of its own. The art style looks almost like a Pixar movie brought to life with colorful environments, stunning lighting, and incredibly smooth animations. Every area feels handcrafted with care, and the character designs are full of personality. But beyond just looking pretty, the game also tells a heartfelt story that touches on themes like grief, healing, and letting go. It balances emotional moments with hopeful ones, creating a tone that feels both peaceful and meaningful throughout the journey. While the gameplay may not reinvent the genre, everything it does is polished and enjoyable. There are moments where the controls can feel a little stiff and some gameplay sections can get repetitive, but none of those issues ruin the experience. If you're looking for a game with beautiful visuals, lovable characters, satisfying gameplay, and an emotional story that leaves an impact, this is absolutely one worth playing. And that wraps up the list of underrated games that deserve way more attention than they get. Hopefully you found at least one hidden gem here that you're excited to check out, because honestly, some of these games are just too good to keep flying under the radar. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe for more gaming content, and let me know in the comments what underrated game you think deserves more love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.